Hello, America. This is Kat, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Speak Truth to Lies. So there are a few things that I want to talk about today. Like I said, over the past year, I have taken a particular interest in politics, especially with all the media news coverage of Trump and the election, and then the racial division that seems to have resurfaced in this country thanks to our legacy liberal media news outlets. And it sent me on a rabbit hole of looking for information. So last week, the one thing I want to discuss particularly today is last week, I posted a video of a fellow YouTube personality by the name of Gothix, spelt with an X. And the title of her video was called Race Hustlers. Pretty shortly after I posted the video, I was basically told to stay in my lane. When I asked if this person watched the video, they said no. And then that got me to thinking about the current climate that we live in, and how people don't really listen anymore and immediately jump to conclusions about what they think you are saying. Because had this person actually watched the video, they would have understood and known that the message in the video was the antidote to the title. I noticed this a lot last year when I got red pilled, so to speak. Red pilling isn't what you think. When you red pill, you don't immediately become a Republican or a conservative, because I don't really consider myself both. At this point now, I feel like both political parties have completely abandoned us citizens. But red pilling basically means that you start seeing through the hypocrisy and the lies and the BS. And I started noticing this last year when the whole lockdowns occurred and we got locked in our houses. Now, keep in mind, I was a never Trumper. I suffered from Trump derangement syndrome, orange man bad, all of those things. I cried after he got elected. I was convinced he was going to start another war, which he didn't. And then I started listening last year when we got locked in our house to his speeches. Like every time they would come on TV, I would listen to them. And then I would go into my Facebook feed and start reading the articles and how they completely twisted the things that he said. And this was my red pilling moment when I started looking at my husband and going, that's not what he said. And so it got me to thinking, like, what else is the media lying about? So I started diving deeper. So as far as staying in my lane, I have only this one question. Is it because I'm white? Because as far as I'm aware, we're all Americans. And to tell me to stay in my lane sounds a little like, you know what? I am an aware human being who sees what's going on in this world. I mean, does anybody else notice how every election year race is stirred up, racial tensions are stirred up and used as a political tool to garner votes from a particular group? Am I the only one that notices this? Another friend of mine asked me, or said to me basically, that it seems as if I'm focusing because I have bought a lot of books on Black history, Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, Walter Williams. I've been listening to lots of YouTube videos about with Thomas Sowell talking. And she wanted to know why. Well, because Black people are my people. White people are my people. We're all Americans. You're my people. But as far as what I had just said about asking you whether or not you've noticed that every election cycle, it seems as if racial tensions in some way or another are stirred up in order to garner votes from particularly the Black community. Well, there is a reason for that. And I hope that you watching this video will join me in a multiple part series where I will be reading a book that I found out by fellow YouTuber Gothics called Color, Communism, and Common Sense. I need you guys to understand that what has been going on right now in the United States with critical race theory being injected and all the racial division being stirred up and by the liberal media establishment has been in the works for a very long time. Okay. And we are seeing the culmination of it full throttle right now. And I'm going to leave you with this. I'm sure most of you know Malcolm X. And while I might not agree with a lot of the things that he stood for, at one point, and like, keep in mind, he was born in 1925. He died in 1967. The book Color, Communism, and Common Sense was published in 1958. Okay, so when I start reading this book and going over and explaining to you what is going on, how this has been in the works for a long time, Malcolm X was very aware of this because he lived during it. It occurred after the First World War and is still going on today. Okay, but Malcolm X made a quote one time, and one of his famous quotes from one of his speeches one time was, "The white liberal Democrats differs from the white conservative only in one way. The liberal is more deceitful than the conservative. Both want power, but the white liberal is the one who has perfected the art of posing as the Black man's friend and benefactor." I want you to keep that in mind when we get into this book, because he is right on point with exactly everything that I am about to address in this video series. It's absolutely appalling. And it doesn't just affect Black America, it affects all of America. Everyone, every one of its citizens, everything that's going on right now has been in the works for a very, very long time. And it's sickening. And I don't understand how more people don't see it. I don't understand how. I believe more people are waking up. I will say that, because you may or may not like Trump, but the reality of it is that Trump garnered 11 million more votes than he did in 2016. So from 2016 to 2020, President Trump gained 11 million more votes. So that means 11 million more people woke up to this BS. Don't take my word for it. I mean, just go back and look at the media coverage before Trump even won the presidency. Okay. And then look at how the media is covering Lord Biden. We'll say dictator Biden, because that's how I feel about him. He's a dictator. He's ruling by executive order. He's completely bypassed the Congress and House. Checks and balances were put in place for a reason. And they did it that way so that a dictator couldn't come in and push their agenda, which is exactly what the Biden administration is doing, pushing the leftist, like far left liberal agenda of inclusion and equity and diversity. If you watch one of my last videos, you'll understand that those words don't mean what we think they mean, not according to critical race theory. But I do hope you join me on this journey. I feel that for those of you that will engage, it is going to be extremely eye-opening and maybe not so surprising, because it wasn't, some of it was surprising to me. Some of it was things that I was completely unaware of, because we don't learn this in history. And there's a reason for that as well. But until next time, my friends, remember, hypocrisy is everywhere. Speak truth to lies.